And we are live with TikTok Radio Podcast, TikTok Famous Podcast. What am I saying? We have Medium Matilda here today, and I'm so excited to talk to her about all things mediumship and predictions and you name it. So stay with us.
You're listening to the TikTok Famous Podcast, where viral fame meets raw reality. Join your host, Meredith Willits, as she dives deep with your favorite creators to uncover the real stories behind the scroll, the highs, the lows, the algorithm chaos, and everything in between. This is not your average interview. This is the TikTok Famous Podcast.
TikTok radio. What the heck am I talking about, Matilda? Lord have mercy. It's late here and it's early in Australia. Thank you so much for being with me here today. I'm so excited to get into all things medium, Matilda.
Thank you for inviting me. Yes, it is early today, but always a pleasure to wake up to take part in something like this.
Yeah, we already have a bunch of people watching, so I'm so excited to ask you so many questions. I just kicked off on to TikTok and let everyone know that we were going to be recording here. So I'm so excited to talk to you because you, in my opinion, are one of the gutsiest predictors on social media. You are not afraid to put yourself out there, and I'm so impressed by you. I don't know if you know, I am also a medium. I am also a channel and a psychic, but I am not even close to being as gutsy as you. Where did you find the chutzpah to predict and talk about so many things globally?
Oh, I've always been someone that has, obviously, I've been able to do this for my whole life.
Okay. Which we will talk about.
Yeah. But I got to the point where I think my family and friends were absolutely sick of me predicting things and saying that's going to happen or that's going to happen. And I didn't choose to go to social media. It was something that sort of I got led to when I saw a lot of unethical mediums, shall we say. So I just decided that to prove, because people don't understand the afterlife and mediumship, but they understand predictions.
Yeah, that's good.
So to prove myself, I decided to start making predictions.
Yeah, and let me tell you, so I first found you when you were a cartoon.
Oh, yes. There are reasons I was a cartoon.
Yeah. So what was going on? I don't remember. I remember seeing it and I remember being intrigued by it. So there's filters you can use on TikTok that can turn you into, whatever. And yours kind of cartooned your face. And I remember you talking about, why did you do that in the beginning?
I wanted to, and it does happen now, take away that personal connection to a certain extent, because people will concentrate on how you look.
Oh, yeah.
And things like that. So I wanted to take away from that. But also, I am connected to somebody that worked in a certain area of life that, there would be some privacy associated with that. And I wanted to protect who I was and them at that time. And after a while, they just said, just do it. Just put your face out there. And also, people were the other side of the coin that don't necessarily use their brain so well sometimes, were saying, why should I believe a cartoon character?
Yeah.
So, yeah, gradually I introduced my own face.
Yeah. Okay, so you said, so I didn't get into mediumship, and it was like gradual. It was like energy work and then emotional work. And then it was like, okay, if energy isn't created or destroyed, I bet you I could do this. And let me see if I can do this. And it was kind of like practicing with friends and family. And then it's like, holy shit, I'm doing this. Mine was like a gradual realization, almost like being like teaching myself how to do it, removing the filter, I'm of strong mind that I think most people can do this. They just filter or they doubt or they poo-poo the idea.
Yeah.
But
trust is a huge part of it.
Yeah. But you're saying you've been doing this for like ever. What does that look like?
just to give you a bit of context, my mother and her family are Romany gypsies. So
Gotcha.
Romany as in the old-fashioned Vargos, not the Irish gypsies. They are the old-fashioned ones. And my mother's father was a Romany gypsy, so it comes from that side of things. And they were one of the first generations in the UK that were settled into houses. I didn't know any of this until I was a lot older, because my father is also an Irish Catholic, and we don't talk about that. But I saw there are very few mediums will see the 3D. It's always in your mind's eye, but you have those occasional really good 3D glimpses. And I saw my first spirit at about 7 or 8 years old.
In the 3D.
In the 3D, I was sleeping in my grandmother's spare room with all my cousins and my brothers, because there was a family event going on. And this gentleman I saw, and I wasn't scared. He just sort of looked around and he put his finger to his lips, like, be quiet. And I mentioned it to family, and it was like, don't be silly. You're imagining it, all of that. But that got more and more. It wasn't until I was about 18 or 19 and I was at my cousin's house and I saw a picture of this person. And I went, who's that? Yes. It was my grandmother had married twice. Her first husband had died in the Second World War. And that was my cousin's grandfather. And his picture was in her house. And that's when I realized who it was. But I knew things before they happened all of my life.
So, okay. So when I do like readings, it's like you said, in your head, like, you know, pink elephants, right? We can all imagine pink elephants. That's how I see it. I think my predictions kind of like don't come to realization until like the deja vu, where you go, oh, I saw this before.
Yeah.
That's how mine comes in. Mm-hmm. What do you have to like hone in for a prediction? Are you like, okay, now I'm going to think about the United States presidential election and I'm going to envision somebody cheering because they won? Does that?
We had to go. You had to talk about the elephant in the room, didn't you?
Oh, we're going.
Had to go there straight away.
Totally going there. With love, of course.
Love. Predictions are very much like pieces of a puzzle that we put together.
Okay.
It is up to my discernment and my understanding of how I translate that information. So for me, I will just ask for, what do I need to know? Okay.
So just a general, what do I need to know in
life?
What
do I need to know? That will be it, because Spirit want us to know what they want us to know.
Okay.
They don't give us all the answers. If they gave us all the answers, Jesus, wouldn't life be great? Wouldn't it be amazing?
Right. Please, you and I would be in TPD right now
give
doing
us all
this
the answers.
podcast.
And you went there. You went there with the election, and I was given. People had to put the pieces of the puzzle together. So my initial prediction was that Joe Biden would not be the runner, and I made that prediction a year before that happened.
Yep, and you said you said he was sick too.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And he is.
And he is. And this is where our ego must be removed. Our attachment to the outcome must be removed. And I then got information that I didn't feel there would be an election. I felt that it would be highly litigious. The day before the election, I put a podcast episode out. I was going into major surgery. I don't know whether you remember, but the day of the election, I was going in to have spinal fusion done.
Jesus. And I remember, because then all hell broke loose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you disappeared.
I was high as a kite. I was on morphine.
But right, and everyone thought you just like bailed on your prediction, but you were actually
recovering from surgery. And it was planned months in advance.
Yeah.
Because I do book out, so I had to sort of adjust my calendar to have this surgery. But the day before the election, I put out a podcast, like as I'm about to leave to go to Melbourne to stay the night prior to my surgery. And I said, Donald Trump will call it early. he's going to call it on the day. There's going to be question marks about it. And I don't know whether or how long it will be before it's fixed. And that was like, it was bits and pieces. However, I did say that he would not be president, and I stand by that. I said that. Still don't think he's president, but we don't need to go into the politics of that.
Well, because there's, about the 4:30 a.m. club or whatever it's called that's going around, went around TikTok at the same time. And it was basically a bunch of people all across the world, really, that woke up at the exact same time I woke up that morning, and I just went, nothing I can do about it. And I didn't know anything. I just knew that whatever was going to work itself out. Mm-hmm. And there was no amount of angst or stress or whatever politically that anyone could or would have on either side. Happiness, it was just going to work itself out. Yeah. And mm-hmm. I honestly, I guess you can't say that, but I believe you're right.
Many people are now coming around to that, but the death threats and hate.
No.
And I still have messages that I have to go through that are in my, or, those comments, the hidden filtered comments.
Yeah, the filtered, yeah.
You can have like 700 filtered comments.
Get out.
That I can't open on my phone because there's so many that I have not opened on I've got to open on my computer to look at them, and I will block every single person that sent me a hate comment because I had death threats. I had, you were wrong. You didn't know what you were talking about. But this is what I'm trying to teach as well. Stop hearing what you want to hear and hear exactly what Spirit is saying. And there's a lot of those bits of puzzle pieces that I gave leading up to the election.
I remember that.
And also, a lot of what I said last year is happening now. How did I obviously got carried away with the Kamala thing because I should never have said she will be president. I just assumed when I was shown he wouldn't be, that she would be. Do you understand?
Yes.
That was my biggest.
It was either or.
It was either or. And right. I was shown he wasn't, so I went with she would be. But it is very much up to that translation of an individual. If you think the predictions that I've been given that have come in and been right, how is that the one that was wrong?
Exactly. And you know what, honestly, it's weird because I will tell clients, and it comes off egotistical, but I will literally tell clients, and I think you'll get me when I say this. Mm-hmm. I've never been wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure that there's nuance of being wrong, but I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. It's not opinion. You know what I mean? I might be interpreting it wrong.
Right.
And people will go, well, what do you mean by that? And I'm like, well, I'm seeing a police officer go to your front door and knock on the door. And they're like, oh, I don't know any police officers. And I'm like, okay, instead of me interpreting it, I'm going to tell you exactly what I see. I see a person in a blue suit with a hat coming to the front door. They have something shiny on their chest. Oh, my grandpa, he was in the military. I saw it as a police officer. They are understanding that it was a military officer. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times I'll have to rewind back and say, I'm just going to tell you exactly what I'm seeing instead of how I'm interpreting it. Yeah.
That's one we have to take people along the journey of how we're being shown things. I get a lot of my information as points of reference. So it could be things that have happened in my life, things that I've seen on TV, movies. That's my point of reference. And learning to take people along the journey is incredibly important because we're educating them at the same time. Totally. And we should always be educating people that, again, Spirit aren't going to give us all the answers. We have lessons to learn and we have choices to make. If we hand all our power over to a psychic or a medium, then, that's why I came on social media in the first place. That's why I went.
That's what I was going to ask you. That's what I was going to ask you. What made you come do all this and put yourself out there?
Oh, I've been doing this. So professionally, I've been doing this for 20 years. I am an economist by training. That's what I do. I have a doctorate of behavioral economics, and that's what I did for most of my working life. about 20 years ago, as I developed more and I worked with a mentor, I decided to put myself out there and do readings. And I have been booked out, an average would be 6 months in advance. It's gotten a bit less as I've now doing this full time rather than just fitting it around other work.
Yeah.
And
so did you quit your job?
Yeah, I don't work. I don't work. I do this now full time.
You do this now
and I love doing what I do because it's what I'm meant to do. And my mediumship is just brings so much peace to people. It's not, I don't just do predictions. I am an evidential medium.
Yeah.
But in February, I think it was 2023, there was a woman that was missing in the United Kingdom called Nicola Bulley. It was a very big case. And every social media armchair detective and medium jumped on the bandwagon of it. And this was a mother who had 2 small children. She had gone missing walking her dog after she dropped her young children at school. And the stuff that the mediums were saying was horrific. It was the father. The children knew that she had been killed. They were in on it. And also saying that she had been, the way that she had been attacked and what happened to her and all of those things. And I just sat there, and I've worked on missing persons cases. I do it in private. I do it on request of families. I will never make any of that work public because it should never be public. And we should have an ethical standard. I was horrified. I was absolutely horrified. And those were my first TikToks where I went on and I said, this should never be happening. The spiritual community should be ashamed of themselves. And that's why I got a lot of my following, where people went, we're with you, we're watching this, we are horrified. And I'd never made it public. I said that she had had a medical episode and fallen in water. And that is exactly what happened.
Wow.
And that was proven. I never made it public. I had spoken to other people about it. But then when she was found, they continued with it. And I was just...
Wow, get out.
The fact that her children are going to see that at some stage just made my blood boil. So that's why I chose to go to social media.
For teaching and ethics. Do you know, now I'm not going to think of her name. There's another gal. She has like multicolored hair. Gosh, I can't think of her name. She's on TikTok, but she's an evidential medium, and she always talks about ethics. And I think you see it the worst when
you're talking about Megan Alyssa.
Yes, thank you. Of course, I have my brain.
No, I've got the same brain. It's fine.
I know, right? She talks about this as well, and I look at it as being cheap. I don't know how it's like it's cheap. It's cheap. It's easy to jump on and get your views. Yeah. And there are some people that now that said, you do talk about celebrities. You do talk about, like, you have some videos, but very rarely. You've got some stuff on Britney Spears. I forget. There was a couple other folks that you have a playlist of people.
Yeah, I've talked about Britney Spears, and that all happened almost immediately. What I had said about Britney Spears, and that was around her divorce and things like that. And
so that was way long ago.
Yeah, a little bit of push. I had given a warning around Justin Bieber, and that was 12 months ago. I'd said he's not going to cope well with what's coming in. And I don't know who else I had. Oh, and the other thing that happened that I pulled people apart about was the Princess of Wales, and people saying that she was a clone when she came back and that she was already dead, and that William had beaten her, which is why she was in hospital. And then there's another thing that really boils my blood, is when people die, celebrities die, and then there's mediums already tuning into their energy and going, this is how they died, and this is what happened. And I had
with no one on the other end to
give
say
evidence.
Boo about it, to say yes, no, isn't so. Like, I have a friend actually who reached out to me. She's a client/friend, and Chandler from Friends. I can't think of his.
Yeah, Matthew Perry.
Matthew Perry. And there was some mediums that were coming out about him and all this. And she said, is this ethical? And she just asked me because she's actually friends with Matthew Perry's sister. And I said, no, this is not okay. Like, this is gross. Like, tell them to like shut it down or, like stay away from these people. Like, if someone's reaching out. And it's cheap because you could say anything. You could say this person did XYZ and there was this person and they were, they were in a fight and there's no one there to say anything about it. And it's cheap views and it's unethical in my opinion. I mean, I'm sure in yours too.
I lost somebody that was, I'm not going to say I was close to them, but they were in my sphere and connections to this person. Liam Payne, he died last year. And I watched in horror as people were connecting and saying these things. And I had the same thing where family were calling me and going, how do we stop this? How, why are they doing this? And it's horrific. So we have to think about, though, we should never do it. It's like surprise readings. They should never happen.
Yeah. It's just, it's unfortunate because there's a family behind those people. Yeah. It'd be like right now, we're just like, we're going to read Prince, the musician for, and you and I can just sit here and say whatever we want about them and get all the clout and like whatever. And then there's no one to say you're wrong. That's not correct. That never happened. And these people that do that, it gives a bad name. I mean, I have family members that when I was like, no, I mean, like I'm a psychic medium and they're like, can you call yourself something different? And it's just like, that really sucks because it makes you feel gross about yourself. It's like, I've got this really cool, amazing gift that helps people, so do you. And you're like, they're making me feel ashamed because people that go about doing this.
It's because people have, everyone during COVID went out and bought themselves a set of tarot cards. And what really boils my piss, and I shouldn't say that because we're live, but it's when they have tarot cards and they call themselves a medium.
Yeah.
Your grandmother's here and she loves you. We are evidential mediums and people should expect more from their medium. They should expect to be taken on the journey. They should expect information that no one would ever know, those quirky stories, those nuggets, that sort of information, because anyone can say your grandmother's here.
Yeah. And she loves you.
And she loves you. Yeah.
Because she loves you. Well, my thing that I've always been really good at myself is like the personality. Like for whatever reason, I can like dive into that personality. I'm not good. To date, I have not necessarily been good at like names or numbers, things like that, where people like those. That's just dumb to ask me. They're just kind of testing you. But that personality that comes through, that's always been more empathic-y type thing. What would you say yours is? Are you like clairaudient, clairvoyant, sentient? What
I'm
are you?
Everything all at once.
Oh, geez, oh whiz.
So it's almost, well, it is like, so if I am doing a reading, they will almost get into me. So I will be hearing words.
That's almost like transmediumship. That's like when they
very much like that. But I will pick up the personality to a T. The points of reference, as I say. So names are always really good for me. And I always say it's because I know a lot of people where they'll show me an image of somebody and I'll go, who's Henry? Who's this person?
So you see your Henry in your head and you know that that's okay. This is what I'm supposed to say is the name Henry.
Yep. That's how I get a lot of the information. As I said, points of reference when they may take me back to a point in my life or a movie that I've seen or something that I've recently heard. And that's how I get a lot of the information. But I will be able to, I also get a lot of conversations that my client has just had. They will give me that conversation and I'll be able to say, were you talking to your sister about, I don't know, shuffleboard? And they'll go, yesterday. How do you know that? Well, because your mum was there.
And she was
That's
losing
how
it.
we prove that they are still, because we want to prove that continuation of consciousness.
Yep.
We want to prove that you're the person that we loved most in the world is still walking with us every single day. It's just we can't see them.
Did any of your relatives do this as a living, or was
No.
it just kind of one of these things that they could do?
My mother could do it. Predicting, not so much the mediumship. I don't think she had an understanding of what that is. My mother passed away a long time ago. My ability became so strong when she passed.
Really?
Yeah, so it
Wow.
was, and we had this thing, when the night that she passed, I was over in the UK taking care of her, and all my brothers were in the house, and my brother comes knocking on my door and said, "I've just had a dream that Mum's gone. We need to go and check her." And that had happened.
That really
So
happened.
we all have the ability. My children, I've got adult children, they have the ability. They just don't know how to use it just yet. So, but no,
Do they
as
want
far
to
as I
use it?
know,
Do
I'm
your
sorry?
kids do your kids want to use it?
Not really. No, they don't even listen to me when I give them information that I see happening.
Really?
So, yeah, they don't take it seriously. Well, they take it seriously enough, and they respect what I do, and they've had enough instances that they know that, you know,
It's
better
real.
listen, or, you know, it's real. I'll tell you a story about that in a minute, that my eldest son took part in, which was quite funny. But as far as I know, I don't believe any of my relatives going back did it. I'm sure they did, but I don't know about it. My
Probably like they were
great
like a wise person, right? Like,
Yeah.
go ask so and so. They always seem to
Mhm.
know stuff. Like they're the smart one.
Yeah, but my Romany gypsies are known for their ability.
Okay.
And I always class it as an ability rather than a gift, because I think when we use the word gift, it adds ego to it.
I agree with
So
that.
I always use the word ability rather than gift.
I like that.
My grandmother, my great grandmother, sorry, died in quite horrific circumstances. And I didn't know how she had died until I was in my 40s. And my whole childhood made sense instantly. I had a fear of wells, and I'm talking about wells, not whales, wells.
Like the water wells, like
With
where you get
water
water
wells.
out
I
of.
had a fear of those my whole life, and she actually died by jumping into one because of circumstances that had happened. And that sort of all made sense to me at that time. But my eldest son knows things before they happen, and he has it as a bit of a party trick, as I did in my 20s. But he came about 2 years ago. They bought me the giant clock for my wall for
Mhm.
Mother's Day. So he was here on Mother's Day, and he was helping me to put it up. And we set it, we put a new battery in it, and it was working beautifully. That night, I had a reading for somebody whose husband had sadly taken his own life.
Mm.
And he stepped in and was giving me really good information. And my clock was working fine, and the reading had started at 6 p.m. my time, and it went for an hour. And towards the end of the reading, I said, "He's pointing to the clock. What's going on? What's the connection with the clock?" And she said, "Our last argument was about a clock."
Yeah.
And then he's saying, "Well, what?" He's saying, "No, my clock had stopped at 6:30. And it was close to 7:00, and I said, "Why is 6:30 relevant?" And she said, "That's the time he died."
Oh, man.
And then my son had to come back and reset the clock because it was too heavy for me to get off.
Mhm.
And he's gone, "You're spooky. That's too much for me."
They just made a clock stop. I always tell people,
Yeah.
like, if they can make things happen, like, that takes a lot of, like, energy.
Energy,
Like,
yeah.
be so, I don't know if the word's grateful, but, like, feel that gratitude of how much they love you, that they would expend so much energy and to make something happen, lights going
Yeah,
off or leaving dimes or quarters or whatever the thing is. Like that's just such a beautiful gift. And I think that, like, for myself, like with clients, it's life changing for them. Like for someone
it
to
is.
know that their loved one is apologizing, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and especially, like, I don't know about you, but like talking to like a wife whose husband's passed, and you're like
Mhm.
basically like your husband was kind of an asshole to you. And
Mhm.
you know that you don't really want to say that, but you can't help it because the husband's like, I
You
was a
have to.
total
Yeah.
jerk,
Mhm. Yeah.
and like he's acknowledging that he was like ignored you. He like poo-pooed what you would say. He just took for granted that you would bring him food,
Mhm.
morning, noon, and night. And he's apologizing. Like sometimes those conversations are so hard. How do you just like go for it and know
I
that
just go
that's what
for it.
you just got to go for it?
I'm incredibly blunt. Not blunt as in rude or
Right.
nasty, but I always say I have a preface of my readings. We must have a connection within the first 5 minutes. And if we don't, I will refund or I'll reschedule you, because there are times when either the energy's off, the timing isn't right. And often when that has had to be invoked, and it happens very, very rarely, something has happened in the week between that reading and when I've rescheduled them that they've really needed information about. I always say I cannot guarantee who is going to step forward because I don't ask.
Okay.
But once we have that connection and someone has stepped forward, I can look for someone else that is relevant. The beautiful thing about having a mediumship reading is that not everyone has perfect relationships, whether it be with a parent, a husband, a wife, a brother, a sister. Not everyone gets to say goodbye in the living world. When we pass, we get that bit of a review of our life, and the egoic part of our existence, our spirit, isn't there. And we realize that, we have been an asshole. And not everyone having a reading is looking for the love. They're looking for some closure to a
Yep.
difficult relationship. And we will never know that until we get that connection with them. And I will just say, look, listen, mum is saying that she could have been a better mother. She wants to take ownership for the part in your life that she has played in those feelings that you have now that are still affecting you, and the decisions that you may have made because she wasn't the best mum. And that often will really help. It just brings such a release and relief to so many people.
So many people like and a lot of people go, I didn't know I needed this. And
Yeah.
I know, because I've watched your videos, that you are cut from the same cloth, probably because you're a real medium. Um,
Thank you.
well, you know what
I know
when
what
I
you mean.
say
Yeah.
it,
Mhm.
but that there's not this big evil entity, scary tapping into.
Ooh.
Right. And like when people are like the devil and the evil spirits, and I'm just like, I'm never afraid. Like I talk to dead people all the time in my house. I don't sage. I don't like stand on my head and all that. It's just like, it's always good. Like that's
It's
what
the
I did.
conditioning. So
Yeah.
we have to remember that a lot of people haven't been through their spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
They are conditioned from a very early age to believe if you're good, you go to heaven. If you're bad, you go to hell. And
I'm always like,
the
how do you send protons, neutrons, and electrons to fire? Like, what is that? What does fire do to atoms? Like, what does fire do to energy? I'm curious. Like, let's go there. And if God knows every hair on your head and he knows everything you're ever going to do, why would he send you to hell when he knows full
Mhm.
well that you're going to screw up the minute you're able to at 2 years old? like,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what?
But we are so conditioned, and that's where people they can't let go of that religion has a place in everything,
Yeah.
okay? And I'm not anti-religion, I'm anti-organized religion.
Right.
Do you understand? I think that it's a good thing to help people navigate many things. However, it does condition people to a certain set of beliefs, and
And guilt and
that's
shame
and guilt
and
and all of those things. but everyone is in the afterlife. But because that egoic part that causes pain to ourselves and others is removed and the reflection is there are no evil spirits.
Yeah. And why? So then there's the people that say, I had a, near-death experience and I saw the devil and I saw all this. I know what I believe, which is in alignment with you, but you're the guest. So what do you say to people when they're like, I saw negative spirits, I saw the devil, I saw all this stuff, and I came back and I found God and religion? How do you explain that to people?
I think that every near-death experience is a personal journey that is often marred by the situation that you are in at that time and your conditioning at that time.
Yeah. Or what you needed. Like maybe that's what you needed to see for whatever freaking reason.
You are shown what you need. And if you are then able to survive that near-death experience, which obviously if they're coming back and telling their story, I have heard elaborate stories. I have heard some of, and they're coming from people that are now working as mediums. Right. I've heard some of the most elaborate story. I just think it's a very personal experience. And you've also got to understand that many people that have had near-death experiences have had that after they have undergone surgery or accidents, and there are also highly likely to be under the influence of narcotics at that point in time.
Speaking of narcotics, have you speaking of drugs,
love how you just get that twist.
I'm like, hold on a minute. Like for me, I did ayahuasca a few months ago.
Okay.
What is your take on like psilocybin? And because I had a healer person who kind of worked with me to do past life regressions, yada yada, like years ago, like over a decade ago. And he was always like, you do not need it. Don't do it. Go into like a meditation. That's all you need is to go inside. And I was always like 100%. When I did ayahuasca, it showed me some stuff. It almost killed me. Literally, I felt like I was I'm like, wow. Someone needs to call an ambulance. Like I was inside going, I need an ambulance. I'm like, this is not fun. I don't feel like I need to ever go experience that ever again. I don't think that was any better for me than what I can do naturally. Have you ever done those things? Do you ever do those things? No. What's your checking out? Or is being you is nuts enough?
Being me is nuts enough. I am very controlled. I have learned over the years to control my ability and I will, after this, I have a reading. So I will spend some time tuning in and connecting. I will always ground myself after a reading. I don't want this shit. Right. I don't want it around my everyday life. I very rarely drink. When I was in my 20s, when we're at uni and we're with friends and we're having a good drink, it was the biggest party trick ever.
Right. Oh,
so, and so unethical. If I look back now, I'm sat there with a group of friends and literally I brought someone's father through. And luckily they were as inebriated as me and thought it was amazing. But I'm just like, how unethical was that? But it was a party trick.
Oh my God, that was literally me until probably 6 years ago. And then I didn't want to be a bitch because you never want to be a bitch when everyone says that you can do this. And I would go, oh, I have a 2-drink maximum. If I've had 2 drinks or you've had 2 drinks, just text me and we'll go to coffee. Because I didn't want to be like, make an appointment because you can't do that too. Because then you want money. And so and then if anyone was like, read me. Cause again, I don't want to be a party trick either anymore. Like I'm a grown woman.
I've lost friends through this.
Yep. And I would just be like, oh, I've already had 2 drinks. I can't because nothing goes well.
Nothing goes well. So I rarely drink. And I don't like drugs. I am too much of a control freak.
Okay.
It's just not me. I don't agree with doing it for mediumship purposes. Again, party pooper, but that's my own personal choice. I don't agree with the ayahuasca. I think that it's damaging, and it can damage people's perception and ability. The stories that I've heard is that it scared a lot of people from channeling once they've done it. And I don't know whether that's true or not, but I've just heard a couple of people say don't want to do it.
Probably because I had such a huge amount of time of doing this prior that it didn't like affect me. The only thing it showed me was basically like, you're always going to be human. And so stop trying to fight it. And so it's like, your good can push away the bad, but the bad always has the possibility. Like, that was my takeaway, is like, stop trying to think you're ever going to be holy because you're human. So just freaking ass stop it. That was my literal takeaway of throwing up for hours and hours and hours and hours. And it was just like, okay, I guess I could have got that, but whatever. So yeah, for me, I was already so doing this so long, but I can see someone being new at it that would be like, I never want to check out of reality ever again, ever.
But also, I was being pushed to make more predictions after the election, and I was on some pretty rough drugs on recovery from my spinal surgery. And I just said, I'm not going to channel until I don't need the medication.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason, again, I took a break. I obviously didn't want to. I've only just gone back to doing TikTok lives because of the amount of hate that I got. But yeah, I don't like channeling or doing mediumship work or predicting when I am under any influence at all.
Yeah. When you're talking about getting back on live and the death threats, and it's funny because I don't even know how many interviews I've done now for this podcast, TikTok Famous podcast. But there's not many people that I've interviewed that haven't had a scare, that haven't been afraid. Either they made a comment on someone else's post, a flippant comment.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I can show people my blocked page, like my kids or whatever. I'm like scrolling. They're like, you blocked that many people? I'm like, and that's just on TikTok. Like, that's.
But you know what? I block people and they hate it. I got the most awful comment last weekend, and I published it. Oh my God. It was like, you dare effing block me, you slut, ugly, troll-faced. Like, oh, somebody needs to get control of their consciousness. I will hold people accountable.
Yeah.
I am here to teach not just mediumship, but about spirituality, about that leveling up, that, raising your vibration, taking accountability, owning things. So if somebody wants to come onto my TikTok, and I'm not just talking about negative comments, because you're going to get those. I'm talking about abusive people that, will go, why should we believe you? You got the election wrong. Well, if you can't understand that election was not quite as it seems, block. I will hold people accountable. So if you're going to come onto my page and abuse me or my followers, you will be removed immediately. You are being held accountable for your actions. And often people will come back and go, why did you block me? That's why. I want to see your predictions. That's why. You don't get access.
I don't think that you are wrong, just to put that out there.
Thank you. And most people who have a modicum of common sense don't think that I was wrong. But
did you just see the lawsuit out of New York that showed like the blue line, the senator won by like 80%, but there was not one vote for Kamala in the exact same district out of New York. Yeah. I think it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, like the impossible happened. People voted exponentially for the Democrat ticket, the Democrat candidate, and like down the list, and then did not vote at all for president, or voted for Trump, even though they voted blue. Like, it's just, I don't think that you're wrong. I don't think that the mediums were wrong. I don't. I'm sorry.
I believe, and nobody has ever won all the swing states,
every single swing
been
state,
able to call an election immediately.
Yeah.
And that's what I saw. I just didn't add up the pieces. But
and he's come out like what, 3 to 5
3
times
times.
on national television
Mhm.
saying we rigged the election. I mean,
Yeah.
it's in plain sight at this point. It's just,
Listen,
it is what it
I
is.
don't think he's long for the job.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that he will be incapacitated pretty soon.
I actually saw a stroke in his above his left eyebrow coming up shortly. I don't know. I can see like this weird
Yeah.
spot in the front of his forehead.
I
That's how.
predicted last year that he wouldn't pass until 26,
Okay.
but I think that he will. I said last year that he will be incapacitated.
Yeah. So when you make a prediction on the weather and
Yeah.
catastrophic shit, are you scared? Like, I mean, like you're so ballsy. I can't even take it. You're
But yeah,
so courageous.
like the hurricanes that happened last year, I predicted before they even happened.
I know
And
you
then
did,
the
and you said it. Like
impact.
that could cause widespread panic, and you're like, "Screw it, I'm saying it."
No, yeah, I know, and I do get widespread panic, and I get very frustrated by people going, "But I'm going on holiday to Florida." There's people going to lose their houses, their livelihoods. Fuck your holiday.
Yeah.
But that's what frustrates. I remove myself from the predictions, mediumship. It's never about me. It's about other people. And the amount of people in Florida that contacted me that said they were better prepared, that they knew it was coming, they had a plan in place, all of those things, and they were grateful for. I then made a prediction that was going to happen around the New Jersey area, and I got the timing wrong because it happened months later, and the hate that I got because that was wrong. But I'd rather put it out there and people be over-prepared than under-prepared.
Yeah. I mean, I have my like food buckets in my garage, and my husband thinks I'm nuts, and I'm like, they're good for 25 years. Who cares?
Yeah.
Worst case is we go camping and we have food for camping, or we give it to a homeless shelter.
Yeah, and
They're
that's
25-year food packages from Costco. Who gives a
Yeah.
shit? Like that's the way I look at it. I'm like, and if they're right, and y'all are eating food for months when there's no like, sue me.
And this year is going to be the year that global warming comes to kick everyone's backside, and I have said that since last year. And we don't know where it's going to happen and at what timing, but multiple people are going to be affected. So I have always warned, get your water in. You don't need months of stuff. You just need to be comfortable. Make sure you've got batteries. Make sure, and also telecommunication and internet is going to continue to be an issue.
Yeah. What do you do? Like when you see these things? Oh, that's a good question first too, is do you predict for yourself? Do you read for
No.
yourself? Yeah,
No,
me neither.
Never.
I
Because
get
my
it in
ego.
music. I get it like song lyrics. I like wake up
Okay.
singing something. That's how I get something for myself. I'll be like, oh,
I've
okay,
got
I
to pay
think that's
attention to
actually
that. Yeah. I will get strong feelings. I have a friend, like I get a lot of my information, Laurie Rivers, who I work with as an astrologer. I would rather go to her, and
Okay.
she's been phenomenal with timing for me with a lot of things. I will just have a knowing. I won't panic. I will know everything's going to work out.
Mhm.
I will feel my guides around me and know, but they won't give me the answers.
Well, yeah, because then like, what are we here for if we have all the answers to the test?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and is that how, like, because I have people, and I'll tell them before appointment, I'll just say, if I can't see it, it's because it's one of your things that you
Mhm.
need to walk through. And if I give you the answers, then what the heck's the point of you being here? Like psychic wise. Is that kind of how you see it too? Like all of a sudden you like look and it like stops, and you look and it stops, and there's nothing that comes through, and it's like, oh, this must be one of your things that you need to know.
Yeah, I will. I always say to my clients, your guides are going to give you the information that puts you on the pathway. Predictions are going to come in, but you often have to do things to make the predictions happen. Or there's I will get a bird's eye view.
Mhm.
but I won't get every intricate move to get to that bird's eye view.
Yeah.
And, I had somebody, and things never work out the way that they think it is. So if you are given a prediction and in your head you have that it's going to work out this way, it doesn't work out that way. I had a client a while ago that I said, you will meet your future husband on a train station platform.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And she was dating this guy, or they were talking and they were arranging their first date. And she thought, I'm going to take control of this situation. We're going to meet at Central Station. Right? So she was thinking,
I'm going to a damn train station. Yep.
Yeah. What she didn't figure into that journey was that her train station that she would get on the train at was going to be closed for construction. So she drove to the next train station to park her car, walked onto the platform, and there was the guy that she was going to meet, getting the train to, and they got married 6 months later or a year later or something. But it worked out. Like, she was trying to force it, but it actually, the universe was telling her, no, you can't control this. We're going to make this happen.
What makes you keep posting? Like, what, with all that you went through? Because I know myself, getting yourself into a pickle. I got myself into a pickle. I've talked about it a few times here. Leaving one comment, and it just, you can do some things sometimes on social media that just go south and stay south for a while. Mm-hmm. And it plagues you. It's hard. It's hard on your mental health. It's hard. Every comment you read, you're trying to justify yourself, or you're trying to explain it away, and you're trying to make it better. What makes you keep going, even inside of that?
I have a wonderful community that I've built on Patreon. And to keep going on social media is, there are good people out there that deserve to learn. And I will control it and control the nastiness by blocking.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, and as with everything in life, I can put the information out there, but I can't understand it for them. They've got to learn to do that themselves. And I'm teaching more. The more I put out there, the more I'm teaching, the more people are learning about themselves and spirituality. I get so much good feedback on my podcast and how much people have learned. And I have to go with the positive, and I have to go with, if you are going to be an arsehole, then that's about you. It's not about me. And that's your lesson to learn.
And I always look at it too, like, they're just not ready yet. And that's okay. Like, it's okay that you're not ready to hear this, because their ego is so attached to good, bad, heaven, hell, whatever, that.
But not just that. You want to have the predictions, but you don't want to do the work that's attached to it. You don't want to learn about the spirituality and the kindness and how much effort it goes into it. And there's so many people that are entitled that I just go, you're not my people.
Yeah.
If you just want the predictions, you just want the answers, then you are not my people, because you're not ready to learn the lesson.
Yeah. Do you hold classes for people to learn how to do what you do? Do you teach that too? I
teach more how to listen to your guides.
Okay.
So more, rather than the mediumship side of things, it's very hard to, I've tried to explain this. I will send them to Megan Alyssa, because you've spoken about her, because she does teach. And she's been on my podcast.
Oh, cool.
Purely because she has that ability to teach mediumship. This is so inherent in me. It's been an ability since I was small, that to teach the process of it is really difficult for me. But I will teach about being open to listening to your guides. I have a course coming up in, I think it's the first week of July.
Okay.
And that is about, it's called Are You Listening? and it's about how to be open to listening to your guides. Understand, people think that their guides are going to do a tap dance in front of them. And it takes work to listen to your guides. If you want instant gratification, forget it. You need to be able to put that effort in and put the work in, and understand that they're not going to tap dance and give you, a Post-it note with the message on.
Well, and I always call it the whisper or the nudge, or like, and to be open and realize that sometimes just that, like, I should really reach out. I haven't talked to Susan in a while, like,
yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to move. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
This is live TV.
That's probably why I said radio, because
live radio. As you know, I've talked about it. I've had back surgery, and I suddenly got a cramp all the way down my leg.
Oh my gosh, you got the sciatica moving in.
So I'm so sorry.
I don't want you to be uncomfortable, and I know you have a full day ahead of you, and you're up early over there in Australia. This is the real Medium Matilda on TikTok. She does lives, she teaches, she does predictions. It's unbelievable. And on Instagram at Medium Matilda. Her podcast is Beyond This.
Yes.
And she just rebranded. So she's got a whole new slew going on over there. And your website is mediummatilda.com. Now, she does group Zoom reading. So if you're interested in holding like a group Zoom meeting, those are, can you get like a group of 20 girls and friends together?
Well, you have a couple of choices. I do family readings, so anywhere up to 5 people in a family reading, 1, 2, 3, upwards. I do Zoom events, so there's a choice of Zoom events. One is 10 people, so you just buy your individual ticket. Everyone in a 10-person Zoom event is guaranteed a reading over the 2-hour.
Okay.
And then I do large Zoom events, which make it a lot more accessible for people. I think they're only $50 Australian dollars to take part in, but there can be 200 people in, and those are very spirit-led, so you can be called upon with the specific information. So those are the Zoom events that I do. I used to do live events, as in out in the wild. But when COVID hit, I stopped doing it. And then I realized I don't actually enjoy touring. So
yeah, that's one thing when you do, like I had a in-person appointment today. It's like makeup, clothes. Like if I'm just doing it in my house, I could just walk in my bedroom and sit there with my sweatpants on and drink my coffee and chill out.
And I was supposed to be in the US in April. I had events in the US, but in January, I started getting information about going to be stopped at the border. They're stopping people at the border and they're holding them, and face recognition and all of that. And that started happening. And I literally in January made the decision to stop all of my US travel for the time being.
Oh, geez. Well, hopefully you're welcome in Chicagoland anytime. You're more than welcome. I'm actually sitting in the spare bedroom that you're more than welcome to stay in. I'd love to have you and talk dead people and predictions and all the good stuff. But you do have a Patreon, which gives everyone first dibs on readings, because you're booked now through September, basically. You haven't even opened your September calendar.
There's a couple left in July.
Okay.
And then there'll be nothing released until probably early July. I'll release September's readings.
Okay.
But Patreon also gives discounts on readings. I have a coffee morning with all of my Patreon members once a month. So you get to ask your spiritual questions and things like that. There's also extra podcasts. I do have a very interesting tier, which is aimed towards people growing their metaphysical practice, where we do teach ethics. We do teach booking systems, marketing, how to have an ethical practice.
Yes. So stop reading people that there's no one around to tell you that you're wrong, because it's unethical. Like, just stop reading dead people that you don't know, that you have no sitter for. You need a sitter. Yeah. If there's no sitter, you're doing it wrong.
And stop trying to do true crime when it's an active investigation.
Yeah. Unless you work through the police. I did take a course on doing like where you help the family, but when I can't remember, it wasn't John Edwards, it's another guy. He's got black hair, he's on TikTok. Clearly I'm really good with names in life and people that are dead.
I'm the same though. I am really bad with names in life. It takes me a while to remember people's names.
And plus I'm like focused on you and questions, like, so like trying to pull a name from whatever. Anyways, I took a class on it. And they said the only real ethical way to do it is with the police, because you could just screw up a family member so bad unless they reach out to you. Now, if a family reaches out to you, but you as a reader should not reach out to a family.
I never, ever should a reader reach out to the family. There's one particular in Australia that I'll tell you about offline who is nothing but trouble and will send search parties out and things like that. Yeah. But I have worked with both the police and families only if I'm ever asked.
Invited, yeah.
And I worked on one particular case where it was really bizarre because the family contacted me. So how I do it is I'm going to do a reading for a family member. If I have a connection, then I will help you. But if there is no connection and you can't qualify the information I'm giving you, take away the missing person, take away the case. I want to do a reading for you for free. Obviously, I never charge. And then we will look at the missing person.
There. Yeah.
And I worked on a case, it was in Australia, and there was a missing child, and the information I was able to give helped in finding them, but it was very specific information. And they then went and did the work. We're not going to do the work. We leave it. We give the information and we walk away. And and a lot of people don't realize that, we don't get to walk a crime scene with the police or.
Yeah, that's few and far between. But yeah, you never reach out to a family.
Never reach, and please, and anyone that follows me will know that they will immediately get followed by somebody called Real Medium Matilda 2739 or something like that, and get offered a reading. I never reach out and offer a reading.
That's why I got rid of the word medium out of my profile, because all my kids' friends would be like, do you know, as soon as I followed you, I was followed by like all these, kids call them fan accounts. I'm like, those are not fan accounts. They are scammers. They're stealing identity and taking money from people.
And then TikTok won't do anything about it.
Yes. And I went to the police one time because I was like, they stole my identity and they're stealing money from people. And they're like, sorry, nothing we can do. I'm like, this is so bad. Like, it's so bad. And I always tell people, like, I would never reach out to you. That's so scammy. Like, if anyone reaches out to you, they are like the worst. But yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here today with me, waking up bright and early to spend some time with us over here in podcast world and social media. I so appreciate you. I'm a huge fan, whether you're a cartoon or not.
That's so kind of you. And thank you for having me and inviting me on.
Oh, I've so enjoyed this. I could pick your brain, and you're welcome anytime here in Chicago. We'll figure it out. I would love to hang out with you. Everyone else, I will be here next week with another guest. So, TikTok Famous Podcast or TikTok Radio, whatever you want to call it. We are here talking to TikTok famous people. Thank you, Medium Matilda, and I'll see you guys here next week.
Thanks for tuning in to the TikTok Famous Podcast with Meredith Willits. If you're loving the unfiltered stories and behind-the-scenes truths, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show. Until next time, let's get famous.